Hello, welcome back to another episode of Veg Networking Canada, where vegan plant-based companies connect and collaborate. We honor, acknowledge, and respect that we are located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of many Indigenous peoples of Canada. Today, we have a special guest with us. She is an award-winning fitness and nutrition coach who is a champion for evidence-based, weight-neutral, inclusive information. She's a podcaster, author of 5 books, and holds a master's of, maybe I'm pronouncing this wrong, gerontology, specializing in health and aging. Her writing has been profiled by CNBC, HuffPost, Healthline, Bustle, and Live Strong. Veg Networking Canada is pleased to introduce the founder of KI Health and Fitness. Welcome, Karina Inkster.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
We're thrilled to have you. So can we launch into the first one and learn a little bit more about you personally? And can you tell everybody what led you to go vegan?
Sure can. So this is way before it was cool. There was Facebook and YouTube, and I was only like 2 years into having the internet at that point. So early 2000s. I went vegetarian when I was quite young. I was 11. And it took me 5 years to figure out that the dairy, meat, and egg industries are one and the same. They are not morally indistinguishable. They are morally indistinguishable. Can't even talk properly. You know what I mean? They're morally indistinguishable from each other. And, I mean, I'm not using this as an excuse, but it was hard to find information about how they were all related back then. Nowadays, we've got people watching documentaries, we've got social media, we've got YouTube, we have, lots of activists who are going into slaughterhouses and factory farms and showing what really happens in there and then spreading the information far and wide. So it's not an excuse because there were vegans way before me, but it did take a while to figure that out. And when I did, I was 16 and I went vegan immediately. So it was entirely an ethical standpoint. I'm not vegan for health, even though I'm in the health sphere. Those get conflated a lot, and that's something we can talk about if you want. But I'm not vegan for health, even though I'm a fitness coach and I'm coaching people in health. I'm an ethical vegan. I like the added benefits that may exist, like increased athletic performance, for example, faster recovery, higher antioxidants, all of these bonus things, environmental benefits, climate change reduction, all of these things. But it comes down to an ethical standpoint.
I love the statement that you made. They are morally indistinguishable.
Yeah.
I.e. meat, eggs, dairy, one and the same, revolving door, no big difference between. Appreciate that a lot. Now, and yeah, you mentioned, if we want to touch on what you mentioned, happy to do that at any time as it comes up in the conversation. Um, what exactly led you to become an entrepreneur and start that journey?
Well, it wasn't really any sort of catalyst. You know how some people have an event that happens or they have a conversation with someone and it turns on a light bulb and they're like, oh, I need to do this thing. I didn't really have any of those things. It was more of a combination of an overall interest in fitness and the long-term veganism. It's been 21 years now for me. So, as you mentioned, I did do my gerontology master's, and so I was in grad school at the time doing my degree, on track to possibly continuing in grad school, doing a PhD, becoming an academic, etc. But I realized that what I really wanted was to work with people. I wanted to work with humans one on one. There's a time and a place for research, and as you mentioned in the intro, I'm very into peer-reviewed evidence, but I don't think that's my I don't really like the term calling, but you know what I mean, right? It's not where I'm supposed to be providing most value. So, would not recommend this, but I defended my thesis and I did all of my exams and training and like, the hands-on exams that you have to do to become a personal trainer. I did all of that in the same month, which I would not recommend. But I just kind of did a 180. So I finished my degree and was like, well, guess I'm going to work with humans now. And I went and became a trainer, working for myself. That's kind of what I see as being self-employed. And I do want to share that self-employment is awesome, but so is running a business. And they're not necessarily the same thing. If you're running a business, technically you're self-employed. But if you're self-employed, you're not necessarily running a business. And so, again, it took me a while to realize this. And when I'm kind of thinking about scaling and next steps, being online was the answer. So instead of working by the hour with clients in a gym, which I love doing and I did for 7 years, I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, how can I scale this from a business perspective where people are not paying by the hour, where I could have a team working for me, which I do now. I've got 3 folks, and online was the answer. So I went completely exclusively online in 2017, which was great timing actually, because in 2020, when everyone went online, we already had everything set up, and that was what we did for 3 years already. So we felt a little bit ahead of the game. But that was pretty much it. So it almost felt like starting a new business at that point, even though it had been 7 years. And so now we get to work with all these amazing vegan clients all over the world. We've got people in Berlin and Australia and Israel, just all over the world. So we're able to connect with exactly the kind of clients that we want to work with. And the clients are able to connect with exactly the kind of coaches that they want.
You touched on it, and maybe there's a little bit more, and there probably is, given what you've said so far about your planning and growth path and everything like that. Next question for you is, where is your brand going in the future now?
Well, I do have to mention this book that I read. It's called Goal Free Living by Steven Shapiro. I used to be the person who made like a 5 year plan and a 12-month plan and a quarterly plan. I read this book, Stop Making Goals. And this is probably 6 or 7 years ago. So, one of the lines in the book is goals provide comfort and predictability. They make us more efficient, but in life, you can't plan out passion. The best experiences unfold naturally. Treat life as an exploration. So, this is kind of what I apply to the business. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 5 years. No clue. Couldn't tell you. What I can tell you is that I really enjoy where I'm at now, which means having space to do things that aren't business. So, yeah, I mean, one stream could be for me to just go 100% and like keep scaling, adding people to the team, $1 million business, etc. But where I'm at now is I've got a team who is doing 95% of the coaching, and I can walk away and teach music and perform and record an album like I did last week. So to me, that's more, I guess, more how I want to live my life. And so I kind of see it as maybe we'll grow the team, maybe not. But where we're at right now with random projects coming up, I think is pretty good. So, short answer, can't tell you.
Awesome. And we'll touch on a little bit more about resources that you would recommend, books, podcasts, apps. Kind of dropped one right there. And again, you alluded to not a trend in your industry as much as more of a almost like a forced transformation that had happened. But that is the next one is, what are some transformations or trends in your industry?
hmm Well, I mean, the online coaching sphere is not really so much a trend anymore. It's kind of assumed. It's something that if you want to scale your business and if you want to have a very specific niche, which we do, vegan, weight neutral, long-term health, all of these kind of things make it a niche within a niche, right? So it's a niche within veganism. The online thing is just kind of a given at this point. But what I think are more trends, there's two things that stand out that I'm like, maybe not 100% on. One is wearable tech. So everyone has wearables these days. And I feel like there's a lot of positives. But 8 times out of 10, when I ask a new client, how many hours on average do you sleep per night? They're like, oh, hold on, hold on. And they go and they check their app. And I'm like, dude, you don't know how many hours you sleep per night? You have to like consult an app. So um, feeling our own bodies and being in touch with our own bodies if we're like chained to an app that tells us how we're supposed to feel. So I have mixed feelings about that. They are great though for things like step counts and making sure that we're moving throughout the day. So positives and negatives. And something really positive that I've noticed actually in fitness is there seems to be more of a focus on the mental health side of exercise. So a lot of people are now either shifting or just focusing more on, things like anxiety reduction, depression reduction, effective stress management, getting intentional movement specifically for the mental health benefits. I think that's huge. That's totally my jam. So that's something positive that I've seen for sure. And then you mentioned in the intro weight neutral fitness. Basically, what that means for folks who haven't heard the term before, it means working outside the confines of fat loss or having a smaller body size as the main goal of fitness. So even nowadays, you go and look at, social media ads, some random trainer's website, they have before and after photos. This is what's going to happen. We don't use before or after photos or any sort of progress photos in our business because there's nothing inherently good about weight loss and there's nothing inherently bad about weight gain. So weight neutral fitness is not against weight loss, but we're against weight loss at all costs. We're against weight loss at the cost of your fitness and your health. So I feel like that is actually expanding, which is fantastic. So more trainers are coming at it from a functional perspective or from kind of more like sport specific and functional fitness kind of directions, which I think is great.
That is great. Yeah. I think it's a perfect opportunity to touch on what you mentioned earlier. So like vegan fitness coach, not vegan for health. Somebody would look at that and be like, that
Hmm.
is super ironic. And then what you just mentioned too, it's like nutrition and fitness coaching recommending goal-free living. It's like all I've heard from fitness and nutrition is about goals and all that stuff. So anyways, do you want to just touch on either one of those or both?
This is a great point because I feel like, especially in the fitness industry, but also everywhere else, there's too much black and white thinking. It's like, well, this is the one answer to getting the body you want, and this is the one right way of doing such and such. That doesn't exist. The answer to every single nutrition question and every single fitness question is it depends. There's no black and white, right? So having some of these inherently opposite kind of views, I think attract the kind of people that we want to work with who see gray areas and who don't have black and white thinking, or who maybe they know that they have black and white thinking. The all or nothing approach, for example, is really holding people back in the fitness industry. Like either I'm 100% on point with my workouts and my diet and etc., or there's no point in doing anything, right? There's never any gray area. So I feel like some of these things um, they lead to conversations. They're a little more interesting. There's nuance involved, and I'm not saying goals are bad. I'm just saying I think we need to focus on things like systems and habits. And the goals piece, like that quote that I shared, can be a part of that. So again, it's not that I'm saying goals are bad or weight loss is bad. I'm just saying you need to factor in other contexts.
Absolutely. A lot of what you said is very synonymous with financial planning. But that's a separate conversation. So did you want to touch at all? You don't have to, but did you want to touch a little bit more on what you said, kind of how you made quite a big point, like I'm not necessarily vegan for health or this or that. Did you want to touch on that at all or?
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm not opposed to the health benefits of veganism, and I know that there are lots, which is shown in research nowadays, of course. So the reason that we use veganism as our niche, if that's what you want to call it, is A, because we're attracting people who are on the same page, they have the same values. And B, because our clients often have had negative experiences in the fitness and nutrition world with people who aren't vegan. So they've been told, like, oh, if you're not eating your chicken breasts and your whey protein shakes, blah, 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 you're not going to nail your goals. So we're kind of coming at it from a value perspective, which is tied to the ethics of veganism and not the health. So, I mean, look, you could sit around and eat Oreos and these, which are my favorite treat, the Justins, by the way, peanut butter cups and Skittles all day and call yourself vegan. Is that going to help animals technically, because you're not eating animal products. But is it going to further your health toward your physique and your fitness goals? Probably not. So there's two sides to it, but it's more from a values perspective and the fact that we want to work with people who match those.
Awesome. Great. So the next question, we always preface by saying there's no right or wrong answers. We've had people answer from what they're doing from a company level, or have done in the past, or are planning to do. Same thing. Maybe they've done something in the past, are currently doing, or planning to do something personally. And the question is centered around like giving back or charity. What does that mean to you, and how do you approach it?
That's a really good question. So some of the things we've done is like a pay what you can approach for folks who could really benefit from the coaching, but just don't have the financial means. And we're not cheap. It's what we call high ticket coaching. So we've done that on an individual level. It has nothing to do with veganism. It's just on a human level. And then as a business, we do support a wombat sanctuary of all things. So we have a monthly donation that goes to Australia. I have a friend who is Australian and she introduced me to all these amazing Australian creatures. And one of the instruments I play is didgeridoo, which comes from Australia. So I kind of feel like I have a connection. I've been there a couple times. Anyway, so the business has an ongoing, it's been multiple years now, monthly donation to a rescue association. And then, yeah, we do lots of things that come up, like Giving Tuesday from the Vancouver Humane Society. Our business has taken part in that a lot. My main employee slash the head coach in our business, Zoe Pellet, is very into organizing community events, and she's done a lot for us from a business perspective in, donating to various charities and stuff. So it's definitely on the menu.
Wonderful. And for everybody listening, don't Google wombat babies. They're so cute. Oh my goodness. All right. So what are some, we mentioned this. So you mentioned Steven Shapiro's Goal-Free Living. Maybe there are other books, podcasts, apps, documentaries, who knows? There's tons of different resources. But from like an entrepreneurial standpoint, vegan or not, like what do you recommend for entrepreneurs when it comes to resources?
So they're not vegan related, but ones that I have found super helpful include James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. So again, this is in the same line of like goals are not the be all end all, but systems are and habits are. So we use that a lot in our coaching. So Atomic Habits. The book I'm reading right now is a new-ish one by Seth Godin, The Practice, Shipping Creative Work. It's a very easy read, and it's basically inspiring entrepreneurs and artists and writers and, essentially knowledge workers to commit to putting their best work out into the world. And so it's not like necessarily chapters, it's just like ideas, idea number 98, idea number 99. So you can just kind of flip through. It's super inspiring. And then another resource that we found super helpful specifically for our business, because we're all about SEO. The way that we get clients is not social media. We have like no followers on social media. The way that we get clients is by showing up on page one of Google. When people search for things like vegan fitness coaching or vegan personal training, vegan nutrition coaching, these are people who are specifically looking for the services that we have to offer, right? So they're very warm leads. So neilpatel.com is what we used. Y'all are probably familiar with Neil Patel if you have even thought about SEO, but he's got lots of courses and just like resources for nailing the Google algorithm pretty much. And there's only so much you can do to like game the system. It's not actually that much. You need to put out good content and you need to speak to your audience and you need to not use AI in creating all of your content and stuff. But Neil Patel is really great. And then for folks who are in the fitness industry, not here, but if anyone else is listening to this episode, the Personal Trainer Development Center by Jonathan Goodman is super helpful for scaling online fitness businesses, for coaching people. Any sort of like health coach type can benefit from that website.
I love it. Awesome. And often in some conversations, we've had that question kind of tie into the next one and almost kind of answer both questions within one. But next question is just one word, like inspiration. So what does that mean to you? What comes up when you hear that?
Yeah, I was actually kind of making notes yesterday thinking like, well, what does actually inspire me? Because I have, certain people like Jonathan Goodman, for example, he's on the list. People who have built amazing businesses that help a lot of other humans, but have time to do other things, right? That's kind of what inspires me is multi-passionate people who have created a way of existing where they actually, first of all, don't feel like they have no mental space. Like they're not running around all the time in busyness. But second, they're able to pursue multiple passions, and not all of them necessarily are a business, right? So for me, my business with fitness is what I do for a living. And yes, I do teach music, and yeah, sure, it's income, but I'm doing that because I want to and because my business lets me. And technically, if I was spending that time on my business, it would probably grow, but it's a choice that I'm making to spend time on these other things. And so I think that's inspiring when I see people who are like this, but also this. Here in Powell River, we have tons of them. I don't know what it is about the Sunshine Coast, but there's people who are like the realtor slash DJ or the IT tech guy slash industrial mushroom grower. He's got like oyster mushroom kits that he does out of his backyard. Anyways, so there's all of these people that we call slashers that are really inspiring. So I'm kind of in that realm of people who do many different things.
Very cool. I personally, and maybe other people are like me, have not heard that term slasher, but intuitively know
We
them.
kind of made
Maybe,
it up. We
well, there
didn't.
you go. Very cool. Maybe even are them themselves. And there's a lot of information that I've seen in the past, but I'm seeing more now. And that is to the tune of what you just said, in that allowing yourself and creating a business and creating a life where you can take time and speak to people and be around people and do things that are completely outside of what your business is actually has a propensity and an ability to make your business more powerful or grow and all of these different things. And so it's very interesting that you're talking about that. Okay, so before we get to the last question for you, which is around sort of like lessons and tips and things like that, we had one question come in, so let me grab it here. So, a question from somebody who's live with us today. Do you bring up animal ethics in some way with non-vegan clients? If so, how do you go about that?
We don't have any non-vegan clients. So that's the answer to that. We only work with people who either are vegan already or who need help going vegan. So we are preaching to the choir, basically. What we do in the kind of outside the coaching world, so the books and the social media posts and the podcast that I host, those things reach the non-vegans. So I have lots of conversations on the podcast, which is also syndicated on radio here in Powell River. So there's tons of people who listen to this content who are not vegan, but I'm not in one-on-one relationships with them. Whereas the clients are coming to me and my coaching team specifically because we're vegan, and so are they.
Okay, you mentioned, so I guess I think I heard you mention, correct me if I'm wrong, that sometimes you do have clients that are coming to you because they're needing help going vegan, or like are they
Yeah.
just so close at like the 99-yard line that there is no conversation about animal ethics, or does it ever come up?
Well, it comes up just by default because we're all on the same page already. So, no, actually, a lot of folks come to us who are nowhere near vegan and they really need the help to go vegan. And so our team is helping them like, what do I eat instead of cheese? And like all the basics that we all don't really think about anymore as long-term vegans. So animal ethics comes up in conversations because we are talking about, well, what is your main motivation for going vegan? Why do you want to make this switch? Why did you seek us out as coaches? But we're not like converting anyone; they're already there. So we're not having conversations around like, have you considered the animals? Because everyone already knows.
Got it. Got it. So in terms of advice, maybe you don't want to frame it that way, lessons, tips for other entrepreneurs, what do you have to share?
Well, one thing is dude, we're all winging it. Like even these business coaches who have, become a six-figure coach in 6 weeks or whatever, like everyone is winging it. There's no one formula for how to run a business. Even the person you see who is running a multi-million dollar business, and I have lots of friends who do, they're still winging it. So there's some aspect of like, the curated social media feeds that we see where we're like, oh my God, these people obviously know what's going on. No, they're just putting that part of themselves out on social media and not the rest of it. So I think it's important to remember it's all one giant experiment. You can try things, things fail. That's a completely normal part of the process. So we are all winging it. And then also, I think we need to remember to treat our businesses like you would treat something like learning a language or your fitness or, learning a musical instrument or something. You can't expect to go from 0 to 110 overnight. And often, again, what we see on social media is that like overnight success, which was actually 15 years in the making, right? So slow and steady, try to find time, even if it's 20 minutes a day, to work on your business instead of in your business. And, as an example, it took me 6 years of consistent work to get on the first page of Google for all of my relevant keywords. So I'm not like going and Googling Neil Patel and then the next day I'm on the first page of Google, right? So I think it's important to remember that these things are long-term projects, which is great because it keeps it interesting. And also, there are fewer people out there who know what they're doing than you think.
Amazing. Karina, is there anything that we missed in today's conversation or anything that you want to go back to?
I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered everything. Happy to answer questions though.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, everybody, you can find out more online, KarinaInkster.com, KarinaInkster, just probably how you thought it would sound and look, KarinaInkster.com, and the same on Instagram at Karina Inkster. So everybody who's here with us live, everybody who's listening on your own time, thank you so much for being here with us today. This has been another episode of Veg Networking Canada, and we had the pleasure of speaking with the founder of KI Health and Fitness, Karina Inkster. Thank you so much again. Everybody else, we'll catch you soon on another episode. Take care. Bye for now.